So, beginning of last week, I decided to do my first ever Zwift race live streamed. Not my first ever Zwift race, but the first time I've ever live streamed a Zwift race. I learnt a lot about my setup, and I learnt to pay a bit more attention to what's going on in the race. It was a 3-hour volcano flat reverse race. I've done this one a couple of times before, and I just thought I'd have a go at a live stream and see how it worked. So in this video I'm going to talk through some of the things I learned, some of the things that went on in the race, and basically what my thoughts are. I'll go through some of the tech that I use for the live stream race at the end. So the biggest problem I had with the beginning of the race, as you can see me down in the bottom corner, I think it's down there. The race started, I wasn't really paying attention. I was looking at the YouTube setup and all that sort of stuff, and all of a sudden I heard the beep and it was time to go. So as Zwift races are, it all got a bit chaotic to start with. My computer, the hardware, let me down a little bit. At this point it all started to get a bit blocky and a bit slow, but I managed to push quite hard off the line and try and keep with the front group that went. I wasn't at the very front, as you can see. There's quite a long line of riders, but I wasn't in a bad group. Normally a little bit further back, I'd say. So the race started and it was hard, as Zwift races are. It was max effort for as long as I possibly could, and I think this went on for about 2 minutes, a minute and a half, 2 minutes into the race. It all started to line out. And then eventually I got together with a bit of a group that we stuck together throughout most of the race. Certainly, whilst live streaming, it gave me a bit more of a push to go a bit harder in case people were watching, and you don't want to perform poorly on your first go, do you? So as the race went on, I stuck with this group. It split off a little bit, and then we collected some other random stragglers as the race went on, and I was feeling quite good for most of the race, but it got to a point where it was all getting a little bit too much, so I started to really struggle. I think most of the time I was happy just sitting in the group and just doing my turn on the front when I could, and just sitting in the back of the group. But as we're getting towards the end of the race, I'm really starting to feel the burn here. It's really, I was struggling, if I'm being honest. It was getting really hard, so I was starting to, you can see there, I'm starting to drop off the back of the main group. A couple of people have just about gone, and I was thinking I need to push on and get back in this group to try and stay in it. I'm never going to win one of these races. I'm a category C, and not one of the best ones. But as the route started to kick up, we were coming up towards the volcano, and this is where I really started to struggle. And this moment now is where the gap just started to open up, and I pushed. You can see I've got out of the saddle. I'm pushing some more watts, and I pushed and pushed and pushed just to try and get back on the group. And as hard as I tried, it just wasn't happening. I was well and truly done by that point. I was just pedalling squares, and I just couldn't really get back onto the group. I did get to a point just as we come to the top, before we dropped down into the volcano, where I thought I might be able to just get back on him. Just as we're coming up here, the gap started to close, and I thought I might be able to get back in this little group. It's kind of a tail end group of the main group that I was in, but yeah, that didn't happen. As we went off through the volcano, the gap just got bigger and bigger. And that was it. Starting to get towards the last side of the group now. I was just done. I'd blown, I think. And from then on, it just became a slow and lonely pedal to the end, just forcing myself to turn the pedals. Also, I forgot to bring a towel into the garage with me, which meant I was dripping sweat in my eyes, and I couldn't dry myself off. That was irritating me. Just one thing after another just led to a pretty poor race. So it just, like I said, it just led into a slow, lonely ride into the finish. Like I said at the start, I'm only a Cat C. I'm never going to win one of these races. I'd like to get to B one day, but I'm probably not. As you can see there, I finished in 105th place out of, I forget how many it was. See if I can see on the screen. I don't know. There was still loads more to finish, but it was 105th place in Zwift. In Zwift Power it was something much better, like 13th out of 26 or something. I prefer the Zwift Power results generally. They're a little bit more, a little bit fairer. But yeah, that was the race. So I'll take you through some of the changes that I'm going to make next time and some things I learned about the setup I've got. So as you can see behind me, I've got a TV on the wall. This is where I had have Zwift playing. I've got a computer down there on the floor. When I did the race the other day, I had the telly was sat on the bench here with a small camera just sat on the top of it. And that wasn't really ideal. It didn't really give a very good picture of what was going on. So I've made some changes since then that I'm going to implement next time I do a live stream. I've swapped my little camera for this, which is an Xbox 360 Connect, which works as a camera quite well. That's attached to the bottom of the telly with some cable ties just to keep it there. And then one of the biggest things, I don't know if you'll notice, you could see on the screen was a little box with me in the corner, in a little box, and I don't like the look of that. It doesn't look so good. When you watch some other Zwift live streams, they've got just themselves without all the clutter behind them, and it looks a lot cleaner and a lot neater. So let me just turn the camera around a bit. I've got myself set up a green screen behind me here, so next time with the camera at the bottom of the telly, I can have my bike and turbo trainer right where the camera stood now, the green screen behind me, and then there's no clutter and it can all look a bit smoother. And if I go back to the start of the race, where I missed the start almost, but in the big group I found the frame rate drop quite considerably and it became quite stuttery. I don't know if that's a combination of me running windowed or if my PC is just not powerful enough to manage all of those people. I think the graphics card I got in certainly needs optimising. I need a better one of those, and I think the processor is a little bit of a bottleneck as well. So in time I like to improve those things, but for now I think that was it. So for my next Zwift race I'm going to use the green screen background, so it's just me on the screen without the little box, because that doesn't look great. I learned some things about setting up live streams on YouTube. I've never done it before, and I ended up with an hour and a half of live stream. I kept it private to start with and then went live when the race, just before the race started, which I'd already got that stream going for that extra half an hour or so, which then once the stream's uploaded and finished, you've got all that hour and a half footage in there that somebody, if I'd not turned it to private afterwards, you could go back and watch, and that's just me sat on the bike warming up, playing with my phone or whatever. So I've got a little bit of work to do setting that up, and I also need a better resolution screen because that one's only HD ready, and which means the output video from the stream is only 720, not full HD, and I'd like it to be full HD at least. So I've learnt a few things about my setup, which I've made some changes to my camera position, TV and the green screen, and I've learnt some things about streaming on YouTube because I've not done that before. It's completely new. So if you've stumbled across this channel looking at Zwift racing online, consider giving us a subscribe, because I'm going to do some more Zwift racing. I'm an average guy, category C rider. Zwift Power says I'm almost B, but not quite. There's a lot of people stream Zwift races that are top of category A or B. I'm not that fast. If you want to watch somebody who's a bit more normal, a bit more like you in the Zwift racing, give us a subscribe and have a look at my next live stream. Fingers crossed it works better than this last one.